the Great Wall of China. It's one of the most iconic landmarks on the planet. Stretching across rugged mountains and endless plains, it has fascinated travelers, historians, and dreamers for centuries. You've probably heard it described as the only man-made structure visible from space, even though that's actually a myth. To many, the wall symbolizes Chinese strength, unity, and the brilliance of ancient engineering. But there's another side to its story, one that's far darker, more tragic, and rarely told. Behind the breathtaking beauty of the wall lies centuries of human suffering. Millions of workers, peasants, soldiers, and prisoners were forced to build it. Thousands of lives were lost in the process, and many of those who died were said to be buried inside the wall itself. Today, we're going to uncover the dark truth about the Great Wall of China. When most people think of the Great Wall, they imagine a single, continuous fortification snaking across China like a giant dragon. But the reality is far more complex. The Great Wall isn't just one wall, but rather a vast network of walls, trenches, and fortifications built by different dynasties over more than 2,000 years. Some sections were built of tamped earth, others were constructed from stone, wood, or brick. At its peak, during the Ming Dynasty, the wall system stretched over an incredible 13,000 miles, but the wall was not always what it seemed. While its official purpose was to defend against northern invaders like the Xiongnu and the Mongols, it also served other, less noble roles. It was a symbol of imperial power, a tool for controlling trade and migration, and even a kind of prison keeping people inside just as much as it kept enemies out. The wall is often celebrated as a marvel of human achievement, but the untold truth is that it was built upon a foundation of unimaginable suffering. The construction of the wall was one of the most brutal endeavors in human history. Unlike modern projects that use advanced machinery, the Great Wall was built almost entirely by human hands. Millions of workers were conscripted into service, peasants torn from their farms, soldiers ordered into hard labor, and criminals sentenced to back-breaking work. Families had no choice. Husbands, fathers, and sons were taken away, leaving women, children, and the elderly behind to struggle for survival. The conditions were horrific. Workers hauled massive stones up steep mountains with only primitive tools, often barefoot, under punishing weather conditions. In the blazing heat of summer or the freezing cold of winter, the labor never stopped. Food was scarce, shelter was minimal, and disease spread rapidly through the work camps. Exhaustion and starvation claimed countless lives. Some historical records claim that those who died were buried within the wall itself, their bones sealed into its very foundation. While historians debate how literally true this is, the wall is still known grimly as the longest cemetery on Earth. Estimates suggest that more than 1 million lives may have been lost over the centuries of construction. For the emperors, the wall was a monument of power. For the workers, it was often nothing more than a death sentence. One of the most infamous chapters in the wall's history comes from the Qin dynasty, under Emperor Qin Shi Huang. He is remembered as the first emperor of a unified China and the man who commissioned the incredible terracotta army, but he's also remembered as a ruthless tyrant obsessed with control and power. To protect his new empire from northern invasions, Qin Shi Huang ordered massive sections of the wall to be built and connected. Hundreds of thousands of laborers, some sources say up to 300,000, were forced into service. These included peasants ripped away from their farms, prisoners sentenced to years of toil, and soldiers conscripted against their will. The suffering was immense. Entire villages lost their men. Wives and mothers wept as their loved ones disappeared, many never to return home. Songs and poems from that time speak of endless sorrow. Families were broken apart, fields were left untended, and famine spread as men were forced into servitude. Qin Shi Huang's rule was brutal, and the Great Wall became a symbol of both his ambition and his cruelty. While he succeeded in uniting China politically, he also left behind a legacy of fear and oppression. Chinese folklore is filled with stories that reflect the suffering caused by the wall. The most famous of these is the legend of Meng Xiongnu. According to the tale, her husband was conscripted to work on the wall shortly after their marriage. He died from exhaustion before he could ever return. Determined to find him, Meng Xiongnu traveled thousands of miles to bring him warm clothes for the winter, only to discover he had already perished. Overcome with grief, she wept at the wall, and her sorrow was so powerful that a section of it collapsed, revealing the bones of countless workers buried inside. While this story is a myth, it symbolizes the very real human cost of the wall. It's a powerful reminder that behind every stone lies a tale of suffering, sacrifice, and despair. The legend of Meng Jiangnu became a lasting cultural symbol of resistance against oppression and the cruelty of forced labor. Centuries later, during the Ming Dynasty, the wall was rebuilt and expanded into the structure most people recognize today. This version of the wall is the one you see in tourist photos: massive stone and brick fortifications stretching across the mountains. But even during the Ming era, construction came at a terrible cost. Once again, peasants, villagers, and soldiers were conscripted into service. Thousands perished hauling stones, cutting timber, and reinforcing the wall across impossible landscapes. The Ming invested heavily in watchtowers, garrisons, and signaling systems. Fires lit at night or smoke signals by day allowed messages to travel rapidly along the wall. Yet despite these advances, the wall was never an impenetrable defense. Invaders found ways around it, bribed guards, or exploited weak points. The most striking example came in 1644, when the Manchu forces invaded. A Ming general betrayed his empire by opening the gates at Shanhai Pass, allowing the enemy to march right through the wall. Soon after, the Ming dynasty collapsed. The greatest defense of the empire had failed. So, if the wall often failed militarily, why build it at all? The answer lies in symbolism. The Great Wall represented the absolute power of the emperors. It was proof that the state could command millions of people, reshape entire landscapes, and create something larger than life itself. It also served as a psychological weapon. For the Chinese people, the wall was a constant reminder of the emperor's authority. For outsiders, it symbolized China's strength and isolation. In many ways, the wall was less about defense and more about control. It regulated trade along the Silk Road, restricted the movement of people, and reinforced the idea of a separation between civilized China and the barbarian tribes beyond. While it did little to prevent actual invasions, it became an enduring statement of dominance. This brings us to the ultimate question: was the Great Wall of China worth it? From a defensive standpoint, its effectiveness was questionable. While it certainly slowed some invasions, it never fully protected China from conquest. The Mongols, for example, managed to invade and establish the Yuan dynasty despite the wall. The Manchu did the same centuries later. Yet, as a cultural and political symbol, the wall was undeniably powerful. It unified people under the image of a mighty empire, and it has impressed future generations with its incredible scale. But was that worth the millions of lives lost? For the emperors, perhaps. For the workers buried within its stones, the answer is clear. The wall may stand as a wonder of the world today, but for those who built it, it was not a marvel, it was a graveyard. Today, the Great Wall is celebrated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most popular tourist destinations on Earth. Millions of visitors walk along its restored sections each year, snapping photos and marveling at its scale. But most visitors are completely unaware of the human tragedy that lies beneath their feet. Each brick, each tower, represents untold suffering. The wall is celebrated as a triumph of engineering, but it is also a somber reminder of the cost of ambition and the cruelty of unchecked power. Parts of the wall have crumbled, overtaken by nature, while other sections are carefully preserved. In some places, locals still tell stories of the sacrifices their ancestors made. The Great Wall remains both a wonder and a warning. It is a monument not just to human skill, but to human suffering. The Great Wall of China is often admired as one of the greatest achievements of human civilization. But behind its majestic beauty lies a story of pain, sacrifice, and tragedy. It was built to protect, but it often failed. It was built to symbolize strength, but it revealed the cruelty of power. And while it stands today as a marvel, it also stands as a grave for the countless souls who gave their lives to build it. So the next time you see the Great Wall, ask yourself, is it truly a triumph of humanity? Or one of history's greatest tragedies? Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories that challenge what you think you know about history. See you next time.